So some of the most common questions we get in customer service are about the Autovac. So we want to make a video here in the Splash Studios talking about some of the common troubleshooting tips that you need to get your Autovac to work. In order to understand how to troubleshoot it, let me explain how our skimmer works. And by the way, this skimmer was designed by us strictly for our pools, so there's not another skimmer like this on the market. It's pretty ingenious. It has a floating weir that goes over the bottom. The advantage of this is you have 8.5 inches of vertical travel. So like in the summer when your water evaporates pretty quick, this skimmer goes up and down with the water level, so you don't have to worry about your pump running dry and burning up. So 8.5 inches of vertical travel. Since it skims 360 degrees, it skims 22.5 inches of surface, which is great because if you look at the through wall skimmers, they're usually only about 10 to 12 inches. More water goes through the skimmer, more water gets filtered. We've also got the skimmer basket inside that is strictly for our skimmers with the cross handle in it. So the reason I'm explaining this to you is because you have to have all these pieces in order for your Autovac to work. The most common problems we find when we talk to people when their Autovac won't work is, one, they say, well, I took that basket out. I didn't want that. Not going to work. If you look in the bottom of the Splash skimmer, you'll see 4 holes. These holes are a second point of suction for the skimmer. Great safety feature for the Splash pool. And the reason they're there is because when this skimmer is on and operating, let's say something were to get over the top of this skimmer, instead of it being sucked down from the suction of the pump, now you've got these 4 holes that can continue to draw water, so you don't have to worry about anything getting stuck, whether it be a toy or a beach ball, anything like that. It's not going to get sucked down by the pump and burn up your pump. We can continue to draw water here. So you have to have the basket for the vac to work. Since this skimmer was designed with a second point of suction, we have to block those. And that's what this basket does when you push it down. When you push it down to the bottom, it seals those 4 holes on the bottom. And so now it's forcing 100% of the suction through the top, which is what we have to make our Autovac work. And so another thing to look at is, well, my basket is in there, but is this cross handle broken? Because if this cross handle is broken, there's nothing to push the basket down. All right? So I'm going to put the floating weir back on top. Right now, everything is floating. Nothing's going to seal the bottom. When I put this vac plate on, you see the hose on the bottom? That hose is going to go down on that cross handle and push the basket down. So that forces the basket down to seal the 4 holes on the bottom, and now we have 100% of our suction coming through this hole right here. That's what you have to make the Autovac work. So, if you don't have your basket in, it's not going to work. If the handle on your basket is broke, it's not going to work. Some people will do this and just try to hook up an Autovac without the vac plate. Without the vac plate, it's not going to work. If for some reason this piece of hose is not on the vac plate, it's not going to work. All of these pieces have to be there for it to work properly. Okay? So if you've got all of that on, you're in good shape there. Another issue we hear is, well, my vac decided to go swimming. Now I've got to catch it. My vac doesn't fit the vac plate because some of the hoses that are out there are not the exact same size as this. You can see that's pretty loose. For example, the shark here comes with the reducer cone. If you don't have the shark and you need a reducer cone, we have these on our website. So this reducer cone is going to go on the hose, and you can see that it's tapered, and now it's going to fit tightly into that vac plate. And so now, when I put the vac plate on, we've got a good snug fit. We get 100% of our suction through the hose, which forces it through the head of the vac. Works great. All right, let's talk about another issue. If you say, all right, Tommy, I got all that covered. We're good. We got the basket in, the handle's good, the floating weir's in place, I got the vac plate, I got the reducer cone, this hose in place. All of that's good and it's still not working. The culprit then is probably you have air coming through your hose somewhere. If this is sticking up in this position, even though it's flooded with water, if you've got a crack somewhere in this hose and it's sucking air, you're going to lose the prime in your pump, which means you're not going to get enough suction to run the vac. Okay? Check that. Maybe switch pieces of your vac hose because these are all links that you hook together. So I can switch these around. Usually the one that's in the sun is the one that tends to break down first. So change this one with one that's underwater all the time. If it leaks a little bit, it's not going to be that big a deal. All right, so we've covered air. Now, if it's still not working, now we've got to look at an obstruction flow. In other words, is my pump primed? Is it moving water? If I look at it and I look through the hair lint trap and I can see it going up and down, the water level going up and down, and I hear it surging, you know, the pump is trying to prime, but it doesn't have enough water. So you've got an obstruction somewhere. It could be a plug in the hose. It could be a slice valve that's partially closed. But if that pump is starving for water, you're not getting enough water in, pump's not picking up the prime, it's not going to push, which means it's not going to suck. So check your pump at that point. So let's talk about flow on your pump, because a suction side Autovac is dependent on flow. If you don't get enough flow, this Autovac may still suck a little bit of water, but you're not going to activate the throat in here, so you're not going to hear it, and it's not going to move. So if that's happening, if everything is right, and you can tell, yeah, it's sucking water, it's just not moving, and I can't hardly hear it, then chances are you don't have enough flow. If you have a 2-speed pump, make sure you're on high speed. That's where it's going to work the best. If you have a single-speed pump and it's still just not working good enough, one of the things you can do is take the eyeball diverter off, because the eyeball diverter creates a little bit of back pressure, and so it stops some flow. If you take that eyeball diverter off while you're vacuuming, it'll give you a little bit more flow. So try that. You should be able to tell by the sound. When you hook it up and turn it on, it should be a nice aggressive, if it's not, if you just hear a dunk, 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 great sound effects, right? If you just hear that slow like that, you don't have enough flow. It's still going to move, it's just going to move very slowly. And chances are it's going to take forever to clean your pool. So you're listening for that nice aggressive speed when you get it all hooked up. Couple more notes that you may want to look at if your vac's not working. If you don't hear it and it just doesn't seem to be moving, chances are, if you have a suction side vac, it's got moving parts, and you can see this throat in here that moves back and forth. That's what you're hearing, and that vibration is what makes it move around the pool, okay? That could be hung up, so you still could be sucking water, but your Autovac's not moving. Check this throat out, make sure that these parts are moving. And then when you're done, make sure that you take your vac plate off of the skimmer. This vac plate cannot be on there while you're just using the pool casually, because remember, we're forcing 100% of the suction through this one hole, and sometimes that may not make it far enough below the surface, and so you're going to hear this loud slurping sound, and you'll see a whirlpool actually on top of it. Take this vac plate off. To get it off, you're probably going to have to turn your pump filter off because there's such a good suction on it. So turn that off, take your vac plate off. You do not use this during normal hours. You're only going to use this when you're running your Autovac. It's usually one of those. If it's not one of those, give us a call, we'll help you figure it out. But that's going to cover 99.9% of all issues with an Autovac. And again, I'm talking about a suction side. Pressure side, there's just not much to it, but it doesn't do as good a job as the suction side. If you got any questions, give us a call, email us, watch for more videos.